Hey guys, welcome back to the Tag Podcast. I've got my beautiful friend Vanessa with me today, and we're going to be talking about homeopathy and how homeopathy can help you get through menopause more easily. So, Vanessa, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thanks, Lynn, for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity to chat and talk about homeopathy because it's a huge passion of mine. So, yeah.
I'm so happy to hear that. For
Yeah.
those who might not know you, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, what you do, how you got involved in homeopathy?
Yeah, so I'm Vanessa Baldwin. I'm a quantum and circadian health clinician as well, which I know Lynn knows all about that. And I'm also a classical homeopath. And I got into all this through my own health crisis. Usually that's what happens, right? So I had a huge health collapse and tried all the things, all the allopathic treatments, and then, of course, all the functional medicine treatments and the supplements and the diets and all the things. And nothing was really moving the needle at all actually until quantum and circadian biology,
Mhm.
getting my light right, increasing my voltage, learning about non-native EMFs, all of those good things, which I'm sure you've talked about many times before. And then what really, even though I was better, my energy was increased and my mood was better, I still was struggling. And I wound up having, this is a woman's issue that happens all the time. Bladder issues and yeast infection issues were my MO. I mean, constantly on suppressive medications for those kinds of things, actually since I was 5 years old.
Wow.
And I had another bladder. It was like itchy bladder. I mean, there's no other way to describe it. It was horrible. It was like a yeast infection in the bladder. And I was like, I am not continuing to go down the road of allopathic and getting, Western medicine for this and just keeping suppressing it because it's just keeps coming back. Yeah, I keep remaining so susceptible to this, right? So I wound up using homeopathy for it and having such great success that I actually decided to become a homeopath right after that. And then, of course, I've been on homeopathy myself, had my children on homeopathy. Then I became a practitioner and use it in my practice. It's the main pillar, especially when people are they're doing all the things. They've got the good diet, they've got the good light environment, they know about toxic products, they know all the things, but they're still stuck and they're not making the traction that they want. That's when homeopathy, I think, really is needed and moves the needle. And in this day and age, I don't know about you, Lynn, or if it's just I deal with more complex people. Most of my clients, they're very well aware and they're doing the things, and they're like, what's going on? Like, why am I still blocked? Why are my hormones not, where they should be? Or why is my metabolism not where it should be? Even though I'm doing what it should make it, work properly, right?
Yes.
So yeah, that's why I love homeopathy so much. It's been such a game changer on my own health journey and for my family. It's such a beautiful modality. So yeah.
What a beautiful story. So happy to hear that. For those who might not be familiar with homeopathy, can you give us a quick explanation as to what it is, how it was developed, and how it works in the body?
Okay, so well, let's go back a little further.
Okay.
Homeopathy uses like cures like, right? So it's a substance that causes causes similar, right? It's something similar in the body, right? So similar to your disease state, so a similar substance. So it uses like cures like, and that was just all allopathic medicine uses the law of opposites. So it's the actual opposite. So if you have diarrhea, they're going to give you something to bind that diarrhea, where homeopathy would actually give you something that would cause that. So the symptoms that would cause it is what cures it. So it's very different than allopathic medicine. People are always kind of confused by that. Like if you came to me with a migraine headache, I would give you something that would cause migraine headache. So it's like cures like. And that was developed actually by Hippocrates. Like it's so long in history. And then Samuel Hahnemann is the one who really nailed in homeopathy, and he really made it quantum medicine, as I like to call it, because what he discovered was not only using like cures like, but he discovered what's called ultra dilutions. So
Mhm.
now you're using a substance that would cause the same symptoms that you're giving to cure the person, but you're also giving it in this like super diluted microdose where it's no longer has any of the crude substance. It's now just in an energetic form, right? So it's really the ultimate form of quantum medicine because it's nothing but it's everything. Because we know from like people like Beta Austin and Dr. Emoto how water holds the memory, the energy, the frequency, holds the substance of that. So say it was you're using arsenic amalgam, which is a common remedy for like stomach flu, right? Arsenicum, malbum, is actually arsenic, right? So in the crude form, this is like a toxin, right? But if you give it to somebody who has the symptoms that our arsenic poisoning would cause, it cures it. But now you're giving it what Hahnemann discovered is okay, we're going to give it in this super diluted formula where it only has the energy. So it only leaves the healing property without any like side effects like we get from conventional medicine. And conventional medicine actually uses some of the same substances that we use in homeopathy. It's just now this is in the energetic form. And people have a hard time wrapping their brain around it because they're like, wait a minute, this is so dilute that there's actually none of the original substance left. It's an energetic frequency of that original substance, which then your body, when it matches with this like cures like, it's going to resonate and say, oh, it wakes up and it catalyzes the body to do some really good self-healing. So that's Hahnemann's story. But I like to call, the homeopathy is an energetic imprint of a substance that comes from nature that catalyzes your body to heal when it resonates. It has to resonate with the right frequency because the wrong remedy, if it doesn't resonate, it'll just ping off and it won't do anything, right? So it has to match your state. The symptoms that you are exhibiting have to be similar to the symptoms that that substance would cause. Otherwise, it won't make any traction. And when I say it's used, it's all from nature. So we're talking about like arsenicum is a mineral, right? Sulfur, mercury, there's zinc, there's calcium, potassium. All the minerals are different remedies. It could come from a plant, like pulsatilla is a very good commons women remedy, which, right? That's a plant. It's actually the windflower. There's aconite, which is a good one people know, arnica, all different flowers, stramonium, haciamos, nux vomica, all different plant materials, and they also come from animal materials as well. So like sepia is another good women's hormonal remedy
Yes,
we could talk
yes.
about, and that's the ink of the cuttlefish. And then there's lachesis, which is snake venom, which is another great women's remedy, actually. So there's all different kinds of ways. Apis is the honeybee, right? So they come from all, it's really nature's medicine kit. It comes all from nature, which is what really drew me into homeopathy too, because I was so tired of, putting toxic things into my body and my family's body. And I was like, let's use what nature provides. Like it makes so much more sense to me. And the whole quantum aspect, being in the quantum biology already and learning about that and water and how it holds energy and frequency, I was like, okay, this all really makes a lot of sense to me now.
So did you study quantum biology first and then homeopathy or the other way around? Okay, so that's interesting because I studied homeopathy in New Zealand like many 20 something years ago and I just studied quantum biology recently. And
Yeah, cool.
studying quantum biology now all of homeopathy made sense to me.
Right.
Like it's like
In course.
now I get it. Of course, that's how it works. And it was just like wow, a light just went on because I
Yeah.
used it a lot, especially when my son was young. It's great for babies because they're too young
Mhm.
to be given any supplements or herbal supplements, but you can safely give them homeopathy. Like you said, because your body will only use what it will need, and there will never be any harmful effects to it, which is I find amazing. And I studied in New Zealand, and every single vet in New Zealand is a homeopathic vet,
I
and
love
they
that.
use homeopathic remedies on animals. So whenever somebody would come to me and say, "Oh, it's just a placebo,"
Mhm.
well, the horse and the dogs, they're not aware of placebo
And
effects.
your plants and the babies and all
Yes,
that. There's no way like a baby who's in dire colic, right? And you give the remedy or
yes,
teething or something like that, and then they're like instantly better. You're like, This is not placebo. Like it
of
can never
course.
be. So we know that it's not placebo. But I love that you talked about how safe it is because it is. It's completely 100% safe. I have some clients, I have to coach them through that because they'll look up like pulsatilla, like I mentioned to
Mhm.
you, right? If you look it up, you're like, oh my goodness, this is a toxic plant. I can't give this to my child. But again, remember, it's in that energetic form, not the crude form, very different. So it is 100% safe and effective, and nothing you need to worry about. And if, like you said, you get the wrong one, it's okay. Nothing will
Nothing
happen.
happens,
It'll be
exactly.
fine.
Like
It'll
same
be
with
good.
belladonna. Belladonna is also a poison, but
Yeah.
it's great for fever and other
Yeah.
conditions as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, it's just so cool that nature gives us everything that we need, and
Hmm.
And here we are, running to the doctor, begging for antibiotics and all these toxic chemicals that they pump us full of, and then the remedy is right there. And I also find it really interesting how the more diluted the remedy is, the stronger it is.
It's the more
How is that
powerful.
possible?
Yeah, I know. Isn't that such a great one?
Yeah.
And it's such a mind shift, right? Because we're like, how in the world? I just think it's a higher energetic frequency, really. This a
Mhm.
higher dilution is a higher energetic frequency. So honestly, when people are struggling with a mental emotional thing, I
Mhm.
want to go super high. I want to go to these 1Ms, these 10Ms, some often like these really high super dilute remedies, or even LMs, which are really great at working on ancestral trauma. So are the 1Ms and 10Ms.
Mhm.
Yeah, I just think the more dilute it is, I don't really know the science behind why that is, but I feel like it's just a higher energetic vibration. So then it works on these like more challenging issues, like deeper levels. If you take, say, a deep acting remedy, like say sepia or carcinosin, which I have just taken recently, and you take it at a 30C or even at like you can even go lower, like a 12C. This is going to work more on the physical layer. You take it at these higher levels, it just works on these deeper, more ancestral, more mental, emotional shifts and planes that are just, I mean, the healing that happened with those things are pretty incredible, especially like a miasmatic remedy, which is something we don't really have to chat with today. But yeah, it's really cool.
And isn't it amazing that it's also being restricted everywhere? Like
Yeah.
it's very
Yeah.
difficult to find. Even here in the pharmacies, they used to carry them and they don't carry them anymore. Like it's
Like
almost
you,
impossible to get them in Europe.
well, oh, that's terrible. Well, you
Yeah.
mentioned belladonna before,
Yes.
and you used to be like belladonna and nux vomica. Belladonna is like that deadly nightshade, or like you
Yes.
said, great for fevers. Nux vomica is great for a stomach ache. It's called the
Yes.
poison nut, right? And you know, you used to be able to walk into like your natural food store
Yeah.
and buy those. And when I was first learning homeopathy, you could, and then all of a sudden it was gone, and they
Yeah.
took them down. And there's no homeopath. There's the combination remedies, which are not as potent as powerful as a single dose remedy. So that was really sad to see happening. And I think that's because it's funny, like they say, oh, it's placebo, right? But then
Yeah.
they remove it. Like, okay, so if it's just placebo, then why do you need to remove it or to, safeguard it? That's really unfortunate. I mean, I know Helios is great in Europe. Hopefully you can use Helios and Uranus, knowing like a good pharmacy and where to get them. And I stocked up on tons of remedies when that was happening and just made sure my family was sovereign and empowered to
Yeah.
have these remedies for when needed because we haven't seen a doctor, Lynn. My family has not seen a doctor since I've learned homeopathy, what, 4 or 5 years ago? So they just,
Awesome.
yeah, we just call on that and we
Yeah.
figure it out. Even my dog,
Yeah.
same.
Yeah.
Like,
That's the best way. I love that.
yeah, yeah, it's so great. So,
No,
and
I walked
ironically,
into a health food store here and they said they're discontinuing everything and whatever they had, I bought it on the shelf and now there's nothing else. You cannot buy it, which is really sad. So I have to go online and try to see what I can source.
yeah, online. Yep,
Yeah.
yeah. And I love that you wrote about children and acutes because I really do believe because I struggled with chronic bladder infection safe beginning at 5 years
Mhm.
old. That was my story. And I always wondered like what would have happened if I would have been given homeopathic remedies then to remove that susceptibility and strengthen my body. And I probably wouldn't have had that later on down in life developing chronic illness, right? Because all of that suppression is why we develop chronic illness. So if we can treat our children's acutes and learn or have that knowledge and power to support our children's acutes with homeopathy, like you stated before, it's one of the ways that we prevent chronic disease later on in life because the suppression is the cause of the chronic disease later on in life. So to me, that is the most powerful thing I can do for my children is to keep them away from those medicines and give them homeopathy whenever they have need it. So yeah,
Absolutely. So what
so
you're saying with the suppression is, for example, when they have chicken pox, that can
mhm.
actually prevent them from more serious conditions later on in life, right?
Oh
So
yeah.
for example, for chicken pox, rather than immunization the children against chicken pox, you would allow them to have it, maybe treat some of the symptoms with homeopathic remedies, but allow the child to experience this, and which will keep them healthier as they're adults, right?
Yeah, I love this because we've actually traded things like chickenpox, measles, mumps, rubella, like all these like things we used to get as children, which
Yeah.
honestly was totally safe. Like I'm sure you've seen that Brady Bunch episode, right, where the guy's like, oh,
Yes.
the mumps, and it's like you just had
Yeah.
spent some days at home. It's not a big deal. We've traded those kinds of like acute, you know, illnesses for things like pans and pandas, which is caused honestly by strep, suppression of strep, very much so.
Hmm.
Autism, ADD, OCD behaviors, anxiety. Look at our children. They are so
Shingles,
suffering.
everything.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
are so suffering with intense neurological chronic diseases because of the fact that we've suppressed them. Because when you have these childhood epidemics, like you mentioned, with the smallpox or the measles or whatever, you up level. That is how your immune system gets stronger. It's like you're building the terrain. It's like taking your immune system to the gym, right? You're getting stronger when you have these things. And by erasing that and just suppressing everything, and every bump and bruise and every little fever and every little cough is the Tylenol, and every whoosh, our immune systems are getting, unfortunately, this is like a really big topic of mine that I love to talk about. They are getting so much weaker and weaker, and then we produce children that have weaker and weaker offspring. And it's a scary thing. And I'm wondering, like, what is going to happen to future generations? Like, we're going to be infertile, we're going to be so suppressed. And it's not only on the physical level that we suppress, it's on the mental, emotional too.
Hmm.
Don't cry, stop it. You don't need to, move on, don't get angry. That's not allowed. That's the other problem too. Like we need to emote these emotions because when we don't, they're creating like knots in our fascia. They
Hmm.
get stored in our exclusions on water. They're stored in our tissues. The energy is not flowing. We need to be moving these things up and out in a healthy manner. Of course, we cannot be suppressing that. And our culture is suppress it, move on, don't need to go to work. I mean, go back to work, go back to school, get back into reality. Don't take any time off. Don't deal with things. Don't worry about your grief. There's no time for it. We just are so busy. There's no time for any of this. And it just, that is a huge reason. To me, the word suppression is the real reason why we have chronic disease, physical, mental, emotional. That is why.
And it
So.
starts at a very young age. We start as soon as they are born, or
Yeah,
even
as
during
soon as they're born, they're
pregnancy.
getting
Yeah.
immunizations. As soon as they're
Yeah.
born, they're getting things. They come out of the womb, it's suppression.
I
They're
know.
they're they're cleaned off right away. That's a suppression.
And
Like
all the C-sections, all the unnecessary C-sections
oh
and
yeah.
everything. I know it makes me crazy. What do you think about raising children in a completely sterile environment?
That's a terrible idea. They need to be outside in the dirt. I love it when their kids are outside in the dirt and playing. Like
I know.
yeah, no, not at all. I'm not about like the hand washing or the masking or the, clean yourself. Like get outside, get in the dirt, connect with nature. That's how you build a microbiome. We want to talk
Yes.
about gut microbiome. It's not the probiotics that's where it's at. It's the sunlight on the gut, as you know. It's the grounding in nature. It's the connecting with the microbes that are in your environment and the local foods,
Yes.
that are in your environment. This is how you build a microbiome for a child. Have them outside in that environment, not in the sterile indoor environment. We're behind all these walls and that is
Absolutely.
that is 100%. And the hand washing and the this
Yeah.
and that. No, like I'm like, let it be. Like
My friend just had a grandbaby, and her son, when she goes over, she has to like change her clothes and wash her hands. And if she touches anything, like if she touches the sofa or something, then she has to wash her hands again before she's allowed to touch the baby. And I'm like, it's crazy, or they don't even take them outside, take the babies outside. They do the
but
same thing
what
with puppies, for
I,
first 3, 4 months, they're not allowed to go outside.
I
And then they
think
have no
really
immune systems. I mean, it's
I
just the
think it's
craziest thing
because
you can.
we're trained to live from fear, right? We're
Yeah.
trained to live in a state of fear. And that's
Yes.
conditioned, right? Everything is fearful. We have to not be, in God forbid we get sick, like it's not allowed because we don't have
Yeah.
time for that. We
Yeah.
don't have time. We have to go to work. We got to go to school. We don't have time.
Yeah.
And, God forbid, like we have to take some days off. So we're trained to live in this state of constant perpetual fear all the time. And I think that drives a lot of that. And then we're very trained on germ theory versus terrain theory, which I, very much believe in terrain theory, not germ
Yes,
theory,
me
right?
too.
It's all about building your terrain,
Of course.
and if you're healthy, honestly, a healthy person, this might blow your mind, or maybe you know this already, Lynn, but a healthy person has one strong acute a year with a fever that really supports them. Like one of my goals as a client, when I have clients, or my sickest clients, myself included, thank goodness, finally getting acutes and fevers back. Woohoo,
Uh-huh.
right? My sickest clients that come to me that have the mast cell activation syndrome and the cancer or the this and the that. And they're like, I'm like, when was the last time you had a fever? They're like, oh my, I have no idea. Like it's been like so long. I'm like, this is the problem because we're so suppressed that our bodies are not able to do the healing work that a fever does, right? It raises the core temperature. You're getting more infrared. You're building exclusion zone water. You're cleaning out all the junk that needs to come out of the body when we have those fevers. So we don't want to suppress that with the Tylenol. That was just in the news, right? We
Yeah.
want to allow that to express. And of course, you can use homeopathics to support the body there. But that is the main reason why people that fear of that, but then that suppression then causes them to be sicker because they don't have that happen. Because most people, like when I say that, they're so confused. They're like, wait a minute, you should connect if you get your body needs, like, especially around the fall and the
Bring,
spring
yeah.
equinox. That is the
Yes.
time where you should have like a healthy acute. Sometimes it's just a cold where you're cleaning up like mucus and things like that. That's cleaning. The mucus is the cleaning. It's the
Hmm.
cleaning up of the things that need to come out. So sometimes it's just that, but we should have those things happen for us to remove what's not serving us in our body. And my sickest people, they don't have that happen. And
Or they suppress it. When it does come, they suppress it completely, right? That's the biggest
yes,
issue. I
yeah,
mean,
but
I
their
see people, they
body,
panic, like, I have a 37 fever. And it's like, so that's not even a fever, you know? And right away, they're taking medication. I'm talking about Celsius, not Fahrenheit. I
yeah,
don't know
yeah,
what it is in
yeah. I don't know
Fahrenheit.
what that is in
Yeah.
Fahrenheit, but I'm sure it's low. Yeah, well, the problem too, Lynn, sometimes is that they're so suppressed that their body is not even able to mount that expression anymore. They just
Yeah.
can't even have that. And that was actually my case too. And homeopathy finally, it took about a year or maybe a year and a half of being on homeopathy to finally be able to express strong acutes with fever. I had
Mhm.
two last year. They were like amazing. I was like, yes, I was so excited. I'm like,
Wow. So you're saying people that are like bragging that they're never sick, they never have anything wrong with them, that's actually not good, that it needs to
yeah,
come out.
yeah, I would say so. I mean, yeah, I mean, you don't have to have like, you shouldn't have acutes that are long lasting that your body can't get
Yes.
over. That is also not healthy. It should
Hmm.
be like a robust, healthy system is going to have one acute a year or so, and it's pretty intense, like a stomach virus or like a flu with a fever, and then they're going to go through that motion. They rest and takes a few days, maybe 2 or 3 days, and then it goes away. And then they actually feel like they have a health upgrade, like they feel like they're healthier after that. That's the healthy system
I
that
love
can,
that. And
yeah.
I'm kind of guilty of that, not taking any medication or anything like that, but when I feel myself getting sick, then I'll take like extra echinacea, I'll take some vitamin C, glutathione and all that stuff. And a lot of times I can suppress it. And I can
Yeah.
just, as soon as I feel the scratchy throat and I take all that and then I stop it. But like you say, once a year or once every couple of years, I cannot because my body is smarter than I am. And it's like, screw you, this is coming out, enough of the vitamin C and everything else. And it comes out. And I embrace it because then I realize, okay, this is it, it needs to come out.
The
And
embracing it. I love that you said that. I embrace it.
yeah,
But then also, like, that makes us have a conversation about antioxidants, right? And about using those. And those reactive oxygen species, they are signaling molecules, right, that are like helping your body do what it needs to do. Like the body is never wrong. It's
yes,
always right. It's
yeah,
we get in the way. Like
yes.
the body is so much smarter than we are. Like it knows what to do and how to like heal itself, but we like with our mind, we're like, we get
It's
in the way
true.
and we cause all these
Yes.
problems, right? And I'm not like against glutathione or vitamin C, like when you need support, like it's
Yeah.
totally fine at Ignitia. We use these things too. But if we can allow that expression to come to more fruition and like allow the body to do what it needs to do, and of course, in a safe manner, we don't want, there are medical emergencies that need, things at
Of course.
times. But yeah, I mean, I think that that signaling is so important because again, it's like that body getting that workout, right?
Mhm.
And getting stronger. So yeah.
I love that. So,
Mhm.
okay, let's talk about women's health. So, you have
Okay.
somebody who comes to see you. She's 15, menopause is just starting, hot flashes, can't sleep,
Mm,
anxiety, all kinds of issues going on, weight gain, all
mm,
the usual complaints. Where do you
yeah.
start with them, Vanessa? Can homeopathy help them? They've tried everything.
Okay, so they're already doing all the foundational things, right?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, absolutely. Homeopathy can help. Well, we have to start with an in-depth consultation.
Yeah.
And, this is where I give you this very long intake to fill out. I tell it gets me all of your health history. I want to know all about, your health throughout your whole life, what illnesses you've had as a child, what illnesses you suppressed, what is your tendencies, right? Are you like me who dealt with a lot of bladder yeast infections? What is your thing? Are you more of a strep throat person? Where does it manifest for you? That's important to me. And then I want to know about your parents' health history. I want to know about all the mental, emotional like traumas that could have happened in your life that could be triggering why you're struggling more or why there's like some blockages going on. Because when we're doing all the things, there's some sort of blockage of why we're not actually healing. Because the body is a self-healing machine. Like it has infinite potential. It will heal and regulate, and that includes hormones.
Hmm.
You know, it'll be in regulation as long as it's given what it needs, right? The correct inputs. So typically there's some sort of blockage. So we do this like in-depth intake. I'm asking all the questions, and then I need to learn not really about that you have hot flashes and that you have anxiety. I need to know deeper. Like I need to know way, way deeper because I can just say, okay, I'm going through menopause. Like there's not a remedy for like menopause, right? It's the remedy for you that really matters, like, and how you're experiencing it. So the symptoms that you're experiencing and all of the triggers, traumas, emotional things that have led to this manifestation of why you're struggling in this time period in your life, right? So was there a lot of morning sickness when you had pregnancy? Was there a lot of fertility issues? Did you have to use fertility treatments? Like all of these questions are going to help lead me. And there's sometimes we need to use we use different remedies. Sometimes it's a sequence of the correct remedies to get the person to where they need to be. It's not just like one remedy because it's of course layering back like the onion, right, and getting to the deeper roots. And that takes some time. But yeah, we definitely can use homeopathy to support it. So really, it's really about spending the time with the person and understanding them and treating the person, not menopause. In every condition with homeopathy or every situation, it's always treat the person. So it's really understanding the person and how they came to be and then finding the remedy that matches them.
So in that sense, it's really different from naturopathy and from like going to see a functional doctor who will
Yeah.
usually send you home with a handful of supplements, right?
Yes,
For different supplements for all the different symptoms. Instead of
yes.
medication, they give you supplements, and you are basically looking for the one specific magic bullet that is perfect for that person.
We're looking for their main constitution, but
Mhm.
sometimes that can be clouded, and sometimes we
Yeah,
don't really hit that main constitution yet because it depends on how much suppression there has been. So we've got
hmm,
to peel back some layers of suppression until we find that like main constitution. That does take some time. Children, because they're younger, they're less suppressed, you can see their main constitution much more clearly. Woman in menopause, it might take some time if they've never done homeopathy before to reach that. But yeah, we are looking for that one single remedy. I don't use many, I don't do combination remedies. I give
yeah,
one single remedy at a time. It's
yeah,
look and wait and see. And then we move on to another remedy. And sometimes there's maybe an intercurrent, or sometimes we need isotherapy, which is kind of like, or isopathy, which is like, I've never been well since birth control, and I've got to take that exact same birth control substance in
yeah.
homeopathic preparation to remove the block. I don't always start there because any remedy can do the work of removing a block if it matches you, right? Because it's
Yes.
like, again, it's like taking that system to the gym and building you up back again. But sometimes we do need to pull those kind of like other kind of tools in as well, but they're all under the homeopathic umbrella. But yeah, it's finding that one remedy that really matches you. The thing is, I think back in Hanuman's time, 200 years ago, there was the one remedy maybe for that person. And it was like, I just need this one remedy. And then they have a cure. And that does happen sometimes. Like I
Mhm.
do see it. It's just more rare because we're just much more sick than we were then. So
For
now
sure.
it's like, okay, I got to remove this layer.
Yeah.
Okay, come back and see me in 3 months and now remove this layer. And then, that's kind of how it goes.
Do you find that sometimes you can just look at people and say, well, that's a sulfur right there, or anything like that?
Yeah,
Kind of
sometimes.
like trying
Yeah.
to guess their astrological signs, but with homeopathy. Do you find that?
Yes, yes, yes. I'm always, I think I've become such an analyzer now. I like can't help it. Like when I'm out and about in like the public and they'll like my kids bring a friend home, I'm like, oh, they need that remedy.
Yeah.
Like 100%.
You
I'm
can't
like,
help
that's their
yourself,
remedy.
right?
I'm like, I just want to like put in everybody's like water and be like, here you go. See you later. But
So,
yes, absolutely.
so
You can
basically, if
kind
somebody goes
of,
to see a practitioner, then the practitioner would be looking for that one specific remedy to help them. But there's also an acute way of using homeopathy as well, right? So, I mean, people can have, like, for example, you can use arnica at home, if you have injuries and stuff like that. Can we talk a little bit about those kinds of remedies that people could have at home that could help them?
oh my goodness. Well, arnica is one of the
Yeah,
top 10 to have,
definitely.
even like your kid has like a concussion, give him a 200C. I mean, you might want to, you may want to meet with a homeopath if you're like unsure about how to the right potency. But yeah, arnica is good for like your bumps and bruises and things like that. Hypericum's another great one to
Yeah,
have, nerve pain, you drop something on your toe, something on you slam your finger in the door, like those kinds of things. So hypericum and arnica, and also aconite for fear, panic,
yeah,
trauma. That's another
yeah.
great one to have. Any kind of acute trauma, or even like anything that develops after being in cold wind.
Mhm.
Your kid comes home, they have an ear infection, and you're like, oh, they all of a sudden have this really intense ear infection with a fever, and you're like, that's weird. And then you think about it, like, oh, they were on the soccer field and it was a really cold, windy day. Aconite's probably your remedy that's going to support them. Belladonna, everybody should have in a 30C, 200C if
Yeah.
you have kids for high fevers. And aconite and belladonna are both very sudden and intense
Yes.
remedies. They come on really quickly, really fast. And belladonna is like the afternoon time. It comes on like 3 p.m., but they're like red and hot and high, pupils dilated, cold hands. Um, it always is such a whenever there's fever, you're gonna think of those two remedies: aconite, belladonna, and then camellia for kids. Also, they're like that really
When they're
irritable
teething and everything. Oh, I used it a lot. Yeah.
teething for
Yeah.
sure, but also like the kid who's just like really, really irritable, and they cannot please them,
Mhm.
but they've got some sort of sickness. It could be an ear infection, very common for left-sided ear infections. So chamomile is a great remedy to have on hand. What else? I mean, there's so many. Pulsatilla is like
Nux vomica is also a really good one for the
oh my
tummy.
God, yeah, knocks and
Yeah.
tummy aches and things like that, digestive issues. Pulsatilla is so clutch too, though. They're like more of
Yeah.
the I find that one for children is so common. This is Pulsatilla, Gelsemium, they come on more slowly,
Yeah.
Pulsatilla is the weepy, whiny child who needs a lot of support and connection and consolation and needs you to be by them. A lot of kids fit into that as well. I mean,
Yeah.
there's your lachesis for your sore throats. That is a really great one. There's so many great ones. I have acute courses, and if anybody's interested in
Oh,
hearing
that's
this,
great.
take them. Yeah, I have a common ailment, common childhood one. I actually have a women's course as well,
Oh,
which covers
wonderful.
all kinds of women things. I have acutes. I have like specific like ear infections, UTI, bladder infections, flus. So I
Oh,
want
that's
people to
great.
have that knowledge so they
Yeah.
are treating these acutes on their own. Like I want you to be empowered. Like I take acute care. Like if you have an acute, you can certainly call me and book in with me for a consult. But if you have the knowledge and the remedies at home, you can do it. Like
Yeah.
I do have a free at home homeopathy kit too as well, like a guide that's free
Hmm.
on my website, so you can grab that. But yeah, I want people to be empowered with this knowledge because it's life saving. Like I even just gave it to my son because this is for an anxiety thing, but he was having fear of thunderstorms, still a work in progress, but funnily enough, we had a couple of like rainy, windy, thunderstormy days, and I was like, I'm gonna give this to him. Oh, actually, it wasn't for that reason. I gave it to him, sorry, because he was really needing me. He had a stomach ache and he was feeling really, really needy and really wanting me. And I use pulsatilla all the time for him, but my intuition was like, I'm gonna try phosphorus because he's having such a fear of thunderstorms.
Yeah.
And I needed to get some things done, and he was being so clingy and having anxiety about his health. So I gave him a dose of phosphorus. And then lo and behold, a couple days later, we had a rainstorm and he was outside playing basketball in the rainstorm. I'm like, okay,
Wow.
he moved some things there with that remedy.
Wow.
I mean,
That's
sometimes
amazing.
you, yeah, the acute can also shift something else deeper
Yeah.
in you as well. Phosphorus is a great lung congestion, asthma remedy as well. I mean, there's so
I
many.
had an interesting story with my son when he was little. He got bitten by a dog. And
Oh, yeah.
when we went to the doctor, right away they wanted to do the tetanus shot. And I said, there's no way in hell. And I gave him Lidum and he was
That's
absolutely
perfect.
fine. No
Yeah,
problems at all. So I mean,
good.
I'm not saying for people not to do the tetanus shot. Obviously, I chose not to.
Yeah.
But like even in situations like that, it can be very helpful. And even for people who decide not to do the childhood vaccinations, there are alternatives, homeopathic alternatives,
There are.
which is amazing, and that can also protect your child,
Yeah,
which is very
100%.
cool.
Lead them, let them. It's
Lead
such a
them, let
great one. Yeah,
them.
tomato, tomato, all these mixes. Yeah. I give it to my dog for tick bites, because he'll get a lot of tick bites here. And what was
Uh-huh.
interestingly enough is when I gave him let him, he wound up not getting any more tick bites. And I was like, here you go. That's how it's working, like prophylactically a little bit, because no, but the ticks were not as interested in him. I don't know. It was like interesting. But you can also think of hypericum as a good remedy if there was a tetanus situation and you actually did have
Yeah.
tetanus. Hypericum is the remedy for that. So there's just so many things we can support. Calendula. I mean, calendula is
Mhm.
amazing. Having just calendula and even putting calendula, like yesterday, my nephew cut his lip, and I said, Mom, I said, take some calendula, put it in the water, and pour it on him. Pour it on the
Mhm.
lip because it's going to clean it out. It's that's actually calendula is actually made from the marigold family. It cleans out any issues and it keeps things, from getting any infections that could happen. It's a
Yeah.
beautiful remedy. I mean, there's a
There's
remedy
so
for
many,
everything.
right?
Yeah.
Vanessa, so as you were mentioning the remedies, you were saying like, for example, belladonna, the fever comes on in the afternoon and stuff like that. So explain it to us how each remedy has these different points that we need to look for to make sure it's the right remedy for us, right?
Yeah, you want to
Because this
especially
is
look for
really
like,
important to distinguish one from another if you're using them at home.
yeah, you have to decide based on the symptoms of the person that they're in front of you. But these are what we call proving. So basically, how we know what the remedy can cure, right, is what we know what it causes. So people, what they did is these are actually scientific studies that were done on human beings, actually. And they would take the substance and they would develop provings or develop symptoms from continuing to take the remedy.
Mhm.
And then they knew they would write it down, and this was done back in Hahnemann's time. Hahnemann did the first proving on cinchona bark, actually, for malaria.
Mhm.
And they would write down the symptoms and they would collect them all and they put them all together and they put them in these books called Material Medicas. And in the
Mhm.
Material Medicas, it has a list of all the things that that substance like belladonna would be able to cause and then thus cure. So you kind of have to know that information, and it takes time in your head to know those things very quickly. But if you know like the keynotes of it, then you can prescribe very quickly, right? If you know like the keynotes of gelsemium, right, in a flu situation, they're going to be super weak and they're going to have droopy, droopy eyes. They might tremble. They're going to be so fatigued, they're not even going to lift their head off the pillow. They're going to have a headache that comes from the back and goes to the front. They're going to have chills up and down their spine. They're going to be very achy. They're going to be thirstless and they're going to have like flu-like symptoms. If you know, and actually that one comes on at not like early morning, like 9, 10 a.m. If you know all those things, you're like, oh, gelsemium, like you know it fast. It takes time to learn those. So if you want to learn more about homeopathy, get some good acute books you can learn more or courses from people who are teaching that. Because when you have that information, it does make prescribing a lot easier because otherwise you're trying to figure out like that's why it's like if your child struggles with ear infections, like having an ear infections course, you're like, okay, these are the main remedies for ear
Yeah.
infection. And now I can say, how can I differentiate? Okay, it's on the right side, it's a pulsatilla. It's on the left side, it's chamomilla. If they're pulsatilla, if they're really clingy and whiny and needy, chamomilias, you're going to give them something, they're going to ask for a drink of water, they might throw it back at you, right? Like they're just very different. So, like, knowing the personality that's going to exhibit with the acute illness is really important too. Um, does that answer your question?
It does. And Vanessa, what you said before that we're not supposed to be suppressing the symptoms of a disease or
Yeah.
an acute condition. So, how does homeopathy? So, for example, I have a flu, I take my homeopathic remedies, but it's not suppressing the symptoms. So, how does it make me feel better?
Yeah, so it's certainly not suppressing the symptoms. So it just kind of resonates. And then what it does is it resonates and the body recognizes it. And because it's in an energetic form, right, the body recognizes that. And then the body, your body, not a substance, has to respond. So your body does the heavy lifting, not a substance. So, like, say, for example, let's take Tylenol and belladonna, right? You give Tylenol for the fever versus belladonna. So, if you give Tylenol for the fever, that's just suppressing it. It stops the action of what your body, it's like stopping those reactive oxygen species. It's like saying, nope, stop what you're doing, body. You're doing the wrong thing. But you give belladonna, and the body's like, it resonates, it recognizes, and the body's like, oh, I'm slacking. I'm not doing what I need to do. My immune system needs to up level, start working a little bit harder, and do what it needs to do to heal. So sometimes after you take a remedy, you can have a little bit of what we call an aggravation, not as much as in acutes, but more in chronics for sure. And this is the way the body's like waking up, the immune system's getting stronger, and then it's removing what doesn't belong. So, say for an ear infection, let's use that. You take a remedy for an ear infection, the ear might get a little bit worse first in the first, like maybe half hour, and then it might get better, right? Because the body needed to pull in its reserves to this, the symptoms are the healing and push out that thing. Or say, for example, you take it for like a stomach virus. Sometimes you might throw up more and get rid of it and then feel better, right? Because
Yeah.
that's the remedy doing its job.
Yeah.
Um, so it really it's the remedy is the catalyst that makes you stronger to remove what doesn't belong, right? It's not
Yeah.
suppressing, it's not stopping, it's making you stronger. So it's like a reminder, like wake up immune system, if you want to call it that, wake up vital force, wake up body, and start healing. Sometimes it can be super quick. I gave my niece belladonna. She was on the couch right here in my home when on
Yeah.
Christmas, and she had a fever, and I was like busy, and I first gave her gelsemium because she was so lethargic, and then I like looked at this. I'm like, oh wait a minute, this is belladonna. Even her pupils were dilated, and I didn't see it right away because I was just so busy. And of course, gelsemium just didn't do anything, right? But belladonna, within like, I don't know, 5, 10 minutes, she was like back to herself. Because
Wow.
belladonna like comes in really rapidly, but can also leave really rapidly too. So sometimes
Yeah.
you don't have those aggravations. It was like amazing. So yeah,
That's so cool.
yeah, it is cool. It's so fun to like know this information
Yeah.
and just be so supportive. Like even like my like when there's a trauma, like knowing this information is so valid and important because again, you're gonna remove that trauma from the body. So my husband, he had fallen for he's a construction worker. He does construction home improvements and had fallen off of a scaffold and he actually broke his clavicle. And he went blind right after he broke it. So it's like a
Oh
big
my God.
went blind. So that's really scary, right? The two remedies that go blind after a trauma are aconite and arnica, right? And you have to know which state is that person in.
Yeah.
Aconite, panicked, stressed, fearful, I'm gonna die, super, super panicked. Arnica, I'm fine, don't worry about me. I don't need to go to the hospital. Totally different scenario. He's an arnica, right? Totally. He's like, he's not panicked ever. He needed arnica. Giving arnica after that, you are going to remove that trauma from his tissues. That's what you're doing when you're giving
Wow.
the remedy. So it doesn't stay stuck and cause a blockage later on in life, right? Of course, in that situation, his clavicle's broken. Yeah, we're going to need medical attention. That's when we
Yeah.
call on the strengths of allopathic medicine. The
Yeah.
strength of allopathic medicine is an emergency care, right? When there's a
Trauma.
when there's emergency trauma, a heart attack, a stroke, a broken bone, that's their strength. But if every single emergency doctor knew about arnica and aconite, and to give that to support the trauma that's going to be living in that person's tissue forever and remove it, that would be like a miracle. Just those two remedies alone, because we need that because we don't want that living within us forever, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean,
And
yeah.
then his eyesight came back and everything.
His eyesight, yeah, was
Yeah.
perfectly. That was a little scary. It's like
I can
to go blind.
imagine.
Yeah.
Holy
But
smokes.
it's a trauma response. It's totally a nervous system trauma response. The body just freezing and shutting down and just yeah.
Wow, that's truly scary. So
Yeah.
you mentioned, as you're saying, so it's not just the physical symptoms, but you're also looking at the general constitution of the person.
The
Like,
mental emotional always trumps the physical, even in acute situations.
so that would be the first thing you would look at rather than the physical symptoms.
Yeah, yeah, usually. I mean, unless there is no mental emotional, but usually there is. I mean,
There always is. Never
there's
met
always a
anyone who doesn't have any issues.
to me, there's always a mental emotional component. But yeah, I mean, I'm looking for the mental emotional.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
So
100%.
then basically with homeopathy, you are not just treating the physical person, but you are treating trauma going back. You are treating things that we may be carrying in our fascia, in our biofield, perhaps. Is it
Yes.
able to clear all of those things with the right
Yeah,
remedy?
yeah, I would say so, 100%. Yeah, the what's living in our biofield, in our tissues, that is what's causing the issue, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, 100%. I mean, the thing is, we carry a lot of baggage. So when you say, can it clear everything? That takes time.
Yeah.
People don't realize how long that takes. That's years of working with a good homeopath. Because we're not only dealing with our own traumas and triggers and suppressive medicines we've taken, we've got all the ones from our parents and their parents and their parents. And this is the more we've used allopathic medicine, like I said before, the more suppressed we are. So we've got a lot of stuff that we've got to clear, and I believe when you're healing yourself, you're also healing the past, the present, the future, like you're healing it all, right? And you're also healing the lineage as well. But yeah, and when you said before about it working on the physical, mental, and emotional, yeah, it's treats the entire person, not just migraine headache, not just I have menopause, not just I have infertility, right? You are treating the person on all spheres, even spiritually. And a lot of times I like to say, like, how do we use homeopathy is very important. Is it the pill or the portal, right? How
Mhm.
do you view it, right? And I like to say, if we're using it as the pill just to like treat minor physical complaints, okay, that's probably going to be supportive. But if we think about it as this portal that's going to ignite our consciousness, right, to like deeper levels, right, and
Yeah.
bring deeper levels of alignment and awareness, right?
Yeah.
It's like you realize I'll have clients say, I realized this relationship I was in was no longer serving me, or the job I was in is a dead end job and I hate that job and I want to leave and I want to do something else, or those kinds of deeper levels of healing, right, are what is really what I love to see because it's bringing you back to this greater alignment of who am I connect with myself more. I
Yeah.
understand myself more, right? I feel lighter. I love that one. I feel so much lighter.
Wow.
You've released some of the heaviness that you've been carrying around that you don't even realize you're stuck with.
Yeah.
So,
I love that. Are
yeah.
there any conditions that homeopathy could not help?
Some of them are a little bit like one of them is type 1 diabetes. Sometimes that can be like a really, really challenging one.
Why is
Um,
that?
yeah, I don't know. It seems to be like one of the most challenging ones for us to get. Maybe I don't, that's a good question. The reason why that is, that one seems to be very challenging and like almost like more on the not curable standard. Some other ones, if it's very, 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 very deep, deep, like schizophrenia, like that can
Hmm.
be, it's not that it can't, it just, it can take long or it can take, it's, you got to be able to stick with it and that can be
Hmm.
tough. So some things that are really, really deep like that can be more challenging, but I still wouldn't say it's not possible because I believe like nothing is incurable personally. Like
Yeah.
you asked me from the homeopathic standpoint, what does homeopathy say? That's what homeopathy says, but I believe everything is curable and that like we're infinite potential. So like there's always hope and there's always, if not a cure, there's always support and a better quality of life. That's what I would say.
I love that. I agree
So
with you completely.
yeah.
It's
So there's always
beautiful.
something we can do.
Yeah.
It's not like you're going to get some benefit from seeing a
Mhm.
homeopath. And yeah, I
And
think
Vanessa,
everybody should
when
look at
people, do you only see people in person or do you do like online
Oh
consultations
no,
as well?
most of mine is on. I mean, I do in person too, but most of my consults are online. Yeah.
Okay. So how would that work? They would contact you, would send them a questionnaire to fill out, and then
Yeah.
you,
Yeah.
mhm, and then
So
you,
they
then
book
you,
an appointment right on my website, brightlightwellnesscoach.com. You can book an appointment. All my appointments do book in Eastern Standard Time Zone if you're listening to this.
mhm,
I need to get that fixed on my website, but they do book Eastern Standard Time Zone. So make sure that you're booking if you're in a different time zone, right? That it
mhm.
fits and matches with your stuff. But yeah, you just book right on my website for initial homeopathy session. I will contact you and send you all the forms to fill out. I like to have them a couple days prior because I don't only work on your case when I'm talking with you. I work on your
Mhm.
case before, I work on your case after, and then I'm with you through the whole process, emailing me, contacting me, making sure things are going well. So after we meet, we go through that. We have this conversation where most people feel like they really feel witnessed and heard and seen, which I
Yeah.
think is also a beautiful part of being a practitioner because
Yes.
when you go to the doctor, it's like this 7-minute thing, and you're like,
Yeah.
you cannot understand the depth of somebody's suffering. And I understand about all that gaslighting because when I was at my sickest and I was going to all these doctors because I didn't know that there was another way. I grew up very conventional and I was like, but you're not listening to me. Like I'm really sick and they have nothing to help me. Like I felt so unheard. So
Yeah.
there's that whole witnessing that happens. And there's some kind of release of letting things go, maybe that or talking about things that you haven't, because we ask a lot of deep, can questions. And then I give them their remedy. Depending, I dose it differently. The potency, not only is the remedy individualized, but the potency or the strength of the remedy is individualized and the frequency is individualized, right?
Mhm.
Or how often they take the remedy. Depends on a lot of factors. So we go through all that. I give them their prescription and then we move on, see how it goes, one remedy at a time, see how it acts. And I see them again in about 8 weeks, and they can contact me through email if they have questions or things are coming up. And then we just keep going through the process like that.
Peeling the onion, right?
Exactly, exactly. Keep peeling that onion back. Yep.
Amazing. Please make sure you send me everything so that I can link everything in the show notes so people can
Will
easily
do.
find you and contact you. And I'm sure you're an amazing healer because you've got incredible energy and you
Oh,
just have
thank
this
you.
beautiful, healing, calming energy about you.
Oh,
Thank you
thank
so
you.
much, Vanessa, for being here. I really appreciated your time. It was wonderful chatting with you.
I appreciate you, Lynn, too. Thank you so much. It was
Thank
an
you
honor.
so much. And thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.